certainly has been a day of celebrations for journalists in Fiji and those of us who are now working out of Fiji, following today's announcement in Parliament, following the passing of government's move to let go of the MIDA decree.
How restrictive was the law when you were working? How difficult was it to do your job?
Well, very restrictive in a lot of ways, especially in us telling the full stories every time we needed to. We just basically couldn't talk about the previous government in any way that they thought was negative to them. We were not, I mean, the media in Fiji was not able to present the full stories to the people of Fiji in the way they reported. And on the other hand, government, push through their agendas, push through their stories, without having that checked and let go in the different media platforms.
And Iliesa, it is very interesting because what happens is sometimes people normalise the way information is actually, they're getting their information. Do you think the public were aware of just how much they were not hearing about?
Yes, certainly. You could, you only had in the last 13 years, you only had to look at social media platforms, on Twitter, on Facebook, and see where people had taken their grievances to, taken their thoughts to, because they couldn't get that from the mainstream media, at least those who were standing with the ethics of fair, balance, and, and factual reporting. So they turned to social media to do that instead.
Yeah. There were still a lot of people in the Fijian Parliament who voted against getting rid of these media laws. Were you surprised by that?
Well, I wasn't surprised at all, because I knew that the opposition, who previously were the government, that they were going to go against getting the bill passed, because I know that they were the one who brought it into governance in the first place. Yeah.
Yeah. Sitiveni Rabuka made this a promise during his election campaign. It's interesting to look at it now, don't you, when you think about the fact that he was a coup leader himself who didn't like negative press attention. What do you make of this sort of transformation of the Prime Minister?
Well, I know when I was working in Fiji at the time when Rabuka came into power, and in the initial 12 months he was hard on the media, but I think some people got sent into him, and the media was able to do their work properly after that, and right through up until 2006 when the previous government came into power through the power of the gun, and then eventually had the decree up. So I wasn't surprised at all that Prime Minister Rabuka and the coalition government decided to do this. And for me, it's a government that has listened to the media and the people, because media freedom eventually means freedom of expression for the people of Fiji.
Yeah. Now, there's even talk of getting a Fiji Media Council up and running. Do you think that would be a good thing?
Well, previously, before 2006 and the years prior to that, the Fiji Media Council was the regulatory body for media in Fiji. I was even brought before the Fiji Media Council as editor of the Fiji Sun twice in my term with the then Fiji Sun as its editor. But, and it has processes. We were able to follow that. And, things were done with the freedom that is attached to it, eh?
Yeah, so you do think it's important to still have those checks and balances, as we do in Australia, that any good democracy has?
Yes, very important, because the message that I've given to my fellow media mates in Fiji is, although we now have that freedom, we must also remember that the freedom comes with responsibility. So the call is going to be more challenging for journalists in Fiji, for media operators, to be able to use their freedom responsibly.
Yeah. And do you think it's going to have a good influence on other parts of the Pacific? You can see, we've seen with the Solomons, where, again, yes, the sort of control of information is getting very worrying. Do you think this is a good thing to be seen as a good example?
Yes, I think the Fijian coalition government has sent a very clear message across the region to Papua New Guinea, who were looking at getting their media laws, tightened up, and the Solomon Islands, who had some issues previously, Palau probably, or Nauru, and to the rest of the region, that government needs to work with the media to make sure that there is media freedom and freedom of expression for its people.
Yeah, and as you say, it's great for democracy. Well, really nice to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.